In Breath of the Wild, you have a stamina bar. If you haven't played Zelda Breath of the Wild before, the stamina bar is the little green circle that decreases whenever you use some exhausting movement. I also have a notorious speedrunning problem, and I'd rather get from point A to point B as fast as humanly possible. So especially at the beginning of the game, I sucked the juice out of that energy bar. So especially at the beginning of the game, I sucked all the juice out of that energy bar. I sucked all the juice out of that energy bar. So especially at the beginning of the game, I would suck all the juice. So to explore, I would run until my stamina ran out, then walk until I recovered, and repeat the process until I got to my destination. So if I navigate Zelda that way, I would, get to my destination as fast as I possibly could, but at the same time, it would give me these breaks in between where I could actually experience the game. I could, explore. If I was going to look for side quests, I'd look for a quick side quest. Or if I were to find like something I thought looked cool, I could explore it. And I know it's probably a little cringe, you can tell this is going, but that's how I'd like to navigate life. Like you push until you can't push, almost to the point of burnout, but you don't burn out. Like you're kind of teetering on the edge. And then once you get to that, you take your foot off the gas and you just glide. And in that gliding period, that's when you would go on your vacations, travel the world, ramp up your social life. Not saying you should get rid of it when you're grinding, but ramp it up at that point. That's what I'm doing, at least. That's what I try to do. But in reality, this means two things. First, that when you're on a break or when you're not fully working, don't worry about fully working. Keep your mind off work. Stop paying attention to anything that takes your brain away from being in the moment. And the second thing is to make sure that when you actually start working, you're running. You're wasting your stamina bar. You go full on out. For example, right now, it's 1:18 in the morning. I put on my clothes. I drove out here to a parking lot to film this video because I can't really film it inside my house for poor lighting. I guess this is better lighting than what I have inside. But my point is, when you're actually working, when you're fully working, push yourself to the limit. And it's tough because, okay, I'll give you an example. For me, this is a very creativity-driven career. And so I never really considered myself a creative person. So it's tough for me to create a lot. And so I tend to procrastinate a lot. So it kind of feels like I'm wasting a lot of time when I'm not working. But a lot of the time that I do spend doing other things, I spend a lot of that time watching things and learning, but also hearing stories, whether that be through movies, TV shows, actual, stories from other people. But that helps me develop and allows me to, kind of output that into these videos or this medium. And I don't know if it's just me, but I tend to hyperfixate on a goal while I'm working on it. For example, if I'm working on a business specifically, it's a problem and it's really hard to turn off. But I think about that all the time. I think about it when I'm watching TV shows, when I'm eating food, when I'm, on the toilet, in the shower, when I'm doing anything, I'm thinking about, first, if it's not actual ideas for what I'm supposed to be doing, it's ways to improve what I've already been doing. And this is the worst part, is this the best use of my time to actually grow what I'm doing? A lot of times it's not the best, but it is a way. So don't worry too much about that. But it's, it does still affect it. It does still take away some of the time. Could I probably be better? Yeah. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect at managing my time, and I had a Bible verse written down. It's Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 to 24. And it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. And this kind of leads to a second thing that I don't know where I got this idea from, but I really hate when people do things to like mid-effort, because what is the point of doing it at all? If you're not going to put your all into it, it's kind of useless to do it. And this verse kind of just solidifies that. Might be confirmation bias, correct me if I'm wrong, but this verse just basically just says everything you do with everything you can. Give your everything into everything you do. And I'd say I am like that almost to a fault, because like I've mentioned before, if I'm not fully committed to something, I'd say 0.1% committed to something. It's either 99 or 0.1. There's no 50. It has its pros and it has its cons. Like leaving a job or dropping out of college. If I don't feel it in my heart to continue because I don't like where it's going to end up, I'm not going to continue. And I lose things again. I spoke on that video last time, but It's tough. It's weird because I don't know if the pros outweigh the cons. Honestly, I do think that this mentality might change one day, at least for me. I think eventually I'll just kind of have to live with not being fully into everything because I don't like quitting on things until I complete them. But at this point, I'd rather use my time to complete things that I actually deem completing, or deem worthy of completing, rather. I also had another example written down, which was in university. When I was studying, at first I took a bioengineering degree, and it was cool. It was interesting. It was novel, and I was genuinely interested in what I was studying, but I didn't see myself going down that path in the future. I kind of Doctor Stranged my way through all those possibilities, and also did not think that was a career path I wanted to chase, which eventually led me to taking leave and at the end of the day dropping out. This one was pretty strong. But I do have an advantage, and that's that I'm still young. I'm not in my 30s with, a family and kids. So if eventually I do need to go back to college, I'll go back to college. It's not that big of a detriment right now. But my point is, if you find something that you can put your blood, sweat, and tears into and not regret it, you've hit the gold mine, man. And I'm not saying don't regret it later. I'm not saying you're not going to regret it. But if right now you feel at peace with the decision you've made, if right now you feel that you're making the right move, you're taking the right steps, put your all into that. If you don't like where it's ending up, move on. Don't waste your energy on something that's not worth it. And this leads to my second part. Stop and smell the roses. Because when you're speeding down the highway, you don't really appreciate the beauty in nature, Especially today, there's this very strong hustle culture, and you probably watched a million of videos about this, but you should stop and think about where you are, how you got there, and appreciate that. Because what are you doing this for at the end of the day? And yeah, I guess you can say at the end of the finish line, you can appreciate it. But you never really know if you're going to get there. You could just randomly be in a car accident one day. And in those moments, I should have done X more. I should have spent more time with my kids. I should have spent more time with my family. I should have, my mom, she doesn't like driving in the dark. And so one day it got really late and she hadn't gotten home yet from work. And I was like, why? That's a little odd. And I called her and she wasn't picking up the phone. I called her again, no answer. Called her again, no answer. So I waited a little bit, snuck around, kind of paced. And I don't know why, my brain instantly went to, what if she got into a car accident? Because it was dark, and I think it was, right after some rain. So I'm talking like fresh, wet ground. And, at worst, some mist impeding her vision even more. And so my brain thought, there's no way she could possibly have gotten into a car accident. And I don't know what I would have done. I really don't know what I would have done if that actually happened. I imagined it for a split second, and instantly, all the times that I've missed all the opportunities to show my love, I regretted not doing so. And I'm talking like I did something about it, but it's weird because I did genuinely feel like I wanted to do something about it, but I didn't. At the end of the day, she calls me back. She was running late. I worked for a bit. She had to catch up on something. But it's times like that where you genuinely, that's the closest I'll ever get, besides the actual passing away, to that feeling of regret. That feeling of I haven't done enough. And it doesn't have to be that morbid. It could be something a lot lighter. Like, for example, lately I've been in the grind mode. And so I kind of threw my friends to the side. New friends. Well, relatively new friends. And I'm not used to having friends because I moved around a lot as a kid. So I never really clung to anybody. And so once I kind of disappeared, it wasn't like no contact, but I backed up a lot, and they felt it, and it surprised me how many of them actually reached out. And so when eventually I did end up back with those friends, I hung out with them once again. It was almost like a system refresh. Like my system, when you're running a computer and everything, goes wrong for some reason. So you think of the first thing you can do and you just turn everything off and turn it back on. It kind of felt like that. So when I did eventually return to like hanging out with them, oh, that's not what I meant to say. So when I did eventually return to like the grind or to working, I felt so much relief. I felt so open. Like, I can actually do things now. And then I went back to the grind mode, produced a good amount of content, and then went back to the social. It's a seesaw. It's a back and forth. So yes, when you grind. But when you're done grinding, take a breather. I mean, even the fastest horses have to take a break. You can't really escape that, you know. Also, quick side note, when you're resting, do not fall into doing nothing. In fitness, there's this idea of active rest, which is when you're on a rest day, when it's not your gym day. You don't just not go to the gym and lounge at the couch all day. You do something else. You can play some sports, go for a walk, even like, I don't know, play an instrument, play the drums or something. But you're not just sitting on your butt all day. Proverbs 16:17 says, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle lips are his mouthpiece. Meaning, if you're not working on something, the devil's gonna swoop in and give you something to work on. For me personally, every time I be falling back into my vices, it's because I'm bored. I'm not doing anything. I have no mission at the moment. I'm aimless. And that's when the enemy strikes. That's when he goes for it. And the days I do the best are the days where I push the hardest. I exhaust myself. I work myself to the limit. So yeah, basically this video is just saying, work hard, play hard. Don't fall into boredom. Don't overwhelm yourself with work. Just thought that was something you should know. Peace.